This is the Construction Leading Edge podcast from ConstructionLeadingEdge.com. My name is Todd DeWalt, and it's my job to help construction business owners maximize revenue, eliminate chaos, and turn their businesses into well-oiled machines. In this episode, we're going to be tackling the skilled workforce issue. And actually, I don't call it a problem because, in my opinion, it's a symptom. And there's a lot of talk right now about we just need to find more workers. We have a skilled workforce shortage. We need more people. And I think that's part of the solution, but there are a whole lot of other things we can be doing to solve our issues. So I'm going to talk today about there's a fundamental problem with the way that we operate in the construction industry, and this affects productivity, morale, quality. This applies to business owners. It applies to project managers, superintendents, plumbers, equipment operators, skilled trades people, and it came from an essay that I read from a guy named Paul Graham, and he called it the maker's schedule versus the manager's schedule. Before I get into that, there are a few resources I want to make you aware of that I want to get into your hands for free. The first is a free video series called The Secrets of Successful Contractors. You can get that over at ConstructionLeadingEdge.com/owner. You're going to learn about a new revolutionary way, potentially, to think about your business and your projects. It's going to help you deliver your projects on time. It's going to help you meet your revenue goals, get you where you want to be. ConstructionLeadingEdge.com/owner. Go there and you can get your free video series. Also, I want to put my crew productivity booster and my project execution formula in your hands for free. You can do that by going to ConstructionBusinessAccelerator.com, signing up for a free 10-day trial. You're going to get the crew productivity booster, the project execution formula, plus a whole bunch of other stuff for free for 10 days. All you got to do is go to ConstructionBusinessAccelerator.com, grab your free trial. And then if you own a business and things are going okay, but you can see where you want to go, but you just can't seem to get there. Maybe it's profitability. Maybe you're working too many hours. Maybe there's too much chaos. You need to get some systems in place to make it sustainable. And you want to avoid the learning curve. You want to get up the learning curve faster, learn from the mistakes and successes from somebody else. Then let's get on the phone for a free strategy call. I'd love to chat with you, learn about your business, and then give you some free coaching. You can schedule your free call by going to ConstructionLeadingEdge.com/call. Or, you know what, if you have any questions, you just want to get on the phone, this may sound a little crazy, but just give me a call or text me at 859-667-2015, 859-667-2015. Some people, you may think, this guy's not going to call me back. He's not going to answer the phone. Try me. You might be surprised. So now, without further ado, let's get into what I call the builder's schedule versus the manager's schedule. I'm going to read this essay, or an excerpt from the essay, and this is written from the perspective of a computer programmer, or a software developer. And I'll just read this essay, and then we're going to talk about how it will apply to your situation and how it's affecting productivity, morale, and what you can do to solve it. I think you'll be surprised. So here's the essay from Paul Graham. One reason programmers dislike meetings so much is that they're on a different type of schedule from other people. Meetings cost them more. There are two types of schedules, which I'll call the manager's schedule and the maker's schedule. The manager's schedule is for bosses. It's embodied in the traditional appointment book with each day cut into 1-hour intervals. You can block off several hours for a single task if you need to, but by default, you change what you're doing every hour. When you use time that way, it's merely a practical problem to meet with someone. All you have to do is find an open slot in your schedule, book them, boom, you're done. The most powerful people are on the manager's schedule. It's the schedule of command. But there's another way of using time that's common among people who make things, like programmers and writers, and in our case, builders. These people generally prefer to use time in units of half a day at least. You can't write or program, or I'll say build, well in units of an hour. That's barely enough time to get started. When you're operating on the maker's schedule, meetings are a disaster. A single meeting can blow an entire afternoon by breaking it into two pieces, each too small to do anything hard in. Plus, you have to remember to go to the meeting. That's no problem for someone who's on the manager's schedule. There's always something coming on the next hour. The only question is what. But when someone on the maker's schedule has a meeting, they have to think about it. For someone on the maker's schedule, having a meeting is like throwing an exception. It doesn't merely cause you to switch from one task or another, or from one task to another. It changes the mode in which you work. I find one meeting can sometimes affect a whole day. A meeting commonly blows at least half a day by breaking up a morning or afternoon. But in addition, there's sometimes a cascading effect. If I know the afternoon is going to be broken up, I'm slightly less likely to start something ambitious in the morning. I know this may sound oversensitive, but if you're a maker, think of your own case. Don't your spirits rise at the thought of having an entire day free to work with no appointments at all? Well, that means your spirits are correspondingly depressed when you don't. And ambitious projects are by definition close to the limits of your capacity. A small decrease in morale is enough to kill them off. Each type of schedule works fine by itself. Problems arise when they meet. Since most powerful people operate on the manager's schedule, they're in a position to make everyone resonate at their frequency if they want to. But the smarter ones restrain themselves if they know that some of the people working for them need long chunks of time to work in. Okay, so Paul Graham is talking about the maker's schedule versus the manager's schedule in the context of software development. I want to talk about the manager's schedule versus the builder's schedule. And my point here is that there are two different types of schedules, and the problem happens when the two meet. All right, so let's think about on a typical project, typical day for a working foreman. Okay, let me just walk through what a typical day might look like. They show up for work 15, 30 minutes before start time. They're rounding up materials. They get their people started, and then they get a call from the office about timesheets for the day before. They get a call from a project manager asking if somebody showed up for work. They get a call from somebody asking another question about their crew. They get a call from the shop asking about a piece of equipment or a tool. Then a client or a customer shows up on the project and asks questions, or maybe a client calls them and asks them questions. Then there's a 10 o'clock safety meeting or a coordination meeting right in the middle of the morning. Then there's lunch. They take a lunch break. They have to stop what they're doing. And then after lunch, maybe there's, if it's on a commercial project, it's not unusual for there to be a foreman's meeting at some point, maybe at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then there are the calls from the office, more calls from the project manager, calls from the business owner, calls from the shop, the BS calls from other guys on other crews. When they have a few spare minutes, they're calling other people, interrupting their day. There are timesheets to be done. There are daily reports to be done, materials that have to be ordered, calls from suppliers. On top of that, there are personal phone calls that come in. When you think about that from if you're a manager, if you're sitting in an office and you're working from an appointment book, that's all fairly manageable. But the problem comes, as Paul Graham said, when the builder's schedule meets the manager's schedule. When we expect builders, equipment operators, pipe fitters, plumbers, carpenters, painters, etc., when we expect builders to work on a manager's schedule, it kills productivity. All right? That's where the problem happens. So here's the deal. We need to let builders have a builder's schedule. A lot of our productivity problems are coming from the fact that we are forcing a manager's schedule onto a builder. I saw a post on social media somewhere stating that a builder or a worker on a job site needs a certain amount of physical space in order to be productive. I would say that one of the reasons that we have productivity issues is because our people don't have enough mental space. They don't have enough chronological space. They don't have enough uninterrupted time in order to get work done. We need to provide builders with large blocks of uninterrupted time so that they can be productive, so that they can stay focused. There's a common misconception about multitasking. People think they can multitask. It's a myth, all right? And what happens when we multitask, we're actually just doing one thing at a time. And if we're trying to do multiple things simultaneously, we're really just doing multiple things poorly. And something that happens when we switch tasks, in this case, when we expect a builder to go from building something, whether it's installing a water heater, running a piece of equipment, installing crown molding, pouring concrete, whatever it is, when we expect them to, when we cause them to switch their mindset and their mode from building to managing, then there's what's called the attention residue. All right, imagine if you are watching Netflix or you're watching a football game on TV and you change channels. Well, typically there's just a switch. It goes from one program, one channel to the other. But imagine if every time you changed stations or changed programs that there was a gradual fade out of the first thing. If you went from watching Jurassic Park to watching football, imagine you're watching the football game and there's this 5-minute long fade out of Jurassic Park as both things are going on simultaneously. That's what happens when you change tasks. There's this concept called attention residue. Your brain doesn't just switch activities, go from 100% to 0% on one task up to 100% on the other. There's this attention residue where your cognitive brain power is still tied up on task number one when you transition to task number two. So imagine every time that you change tasks, it's just like changing from Jurassic Park to football. There's going to be this gradual fade out of Jurassic Park while you're watching football. So the same thing happens every time a builder is required to switch from builder mindset to manager mindset. That's what's happening. So look at that typical day. Every phone call, every text, every email, every meeting is causing our people, it's causing the people who are building the work to switch from one mindset to the other, and they're not able to switch from one to the other. And we're putting these people in a constant state of churn, switching from one task to the other, from one schedule, one mindset to the other. So you can see why this would affect productivity. You can see why this would affect quality. If you've done any work with your hands, whether it's putting together furniture, installing trim, running a piece of equipment, I remember 20 years ago working with an equipment operator who said that he didn't like to get out of the track-hoe. He would be in the seat for 10 to 12 hours a day because once he got in the groove, once he got in his zone, he wanted to stay there. And getting out of the machine, taking phone calls, whatever it was, got him out of that zone. And if you've done anything, if you've done any sort of work with your hands or run equipment, you know what that's like. Once you get in that zone, if you're interrupted, then it takes time to get back into the zone. So you can imagine how that affects productivity. You think about how that affects quality when we're causing people to change their mindset and change the way they're operating. Things get missed. When they stop doing something, take a phone call, go to a meeting, they come back, then something could get missed. Let's think about how a couple of other trades operate. A few months ago, my wife had some surgery, and while I didn't watch the operation, I'll bet if I were to be able to watch or peek in there, I would have seen the nurses and the surgeons and the anesthesiologist all 100% focused on the task at hand. I would probably not have seen people taking phone calls and text messages and checking Facebook. I would not have seen people calling meetings. I would not have seen chiefs of surgery sticking their head in there, asking questions, saying, hey, can you come see me? They would be leaving those people alone to do their job. Now you may be thinking, all right, that's surgery. All right, well, think about when you go through a busy drive-through restaurant at lunchtime. There's a Wendy's in my town that used to be the fastest place for lunch. And when I looked through that drive-through window during lunch hour, I didn't see anybody having meetings. I didn't see anybody talking. I didn't see anybody checking their phone. I didn't see anyone texting. They were heads down. They were on call it the sandwich maker schedule. And there were other times when they would have meetings and have conversations. So here's what we need to do. Again, the point here is that part of our productivity issue, just part of it, I'm not saying that this is going to 100% solve our skilled workforce issue, but one thing we can do is change the fundamental way that we think about schedules and we think about time, and understand that there's a manager schedule and that there's a builder schedule, and the problems happen when those two collide. So here's what we need to do. We need to give our builders large blocks of uninterrupted time so that they can build. I'm going to give you a couple of strategies, a couple of solutions that I have seen that will help this situation. So first of all is to think differently about the org chart. The typical organizational chart has the leader at the top, and then there's this pyramid framework where the people doing the work are at the bottom of the org chart. So the first strategy, the first solution is to flip the org chart. You have to think differently about the people who are the builders. The builders are not there to support the project managers, and the project managers are not there to support the executives, and the executives are not there to support the owner. The org chart of the most progressive businesses is turned upside down, where the builders, the frontline people actually doing the work, the people pulling levers on equipment, the people running screw guns, the people finishing drywall, those are the frontline people that are getting it done. Everybody else is there to support them. So the first strategy is flip the org chart, start thinking differently about your builders. If you're a project manager, superintendent, executive business owner, chances are you're not putting any work in place. Your job is to support those people so they can be successful. Secondly, leave your builders alone for hours at a time. All right? Eliminate the interruptions. Eliminate as many interruptions as possible. Let's put it that way. I understand there has to be communication. There has to be coordination. But batch your communication. Remember that builders need large blocks of uninterrupted time. Stop thinking of their time like a manager's schedule and think of it as a builder's schedule. They think of their days in two blocks, morning and afternoon. So batch your communication. Batch your meetings, batch your coordination. And when I say batch, what I mean is instead of calling your concrete foreman or your carpentry foreman 3 times in the morning and 3 times in the afternoon, every time a question pops up, set huddle times, set times of the day when you will call, and then hold your questions until that time. Set meetings at the beginning of the day, at lunchtime, or at the end of the day. And then leave your people alone, unless it's an emergency, of course. But it's much better to have a set phone call at, say, 11:30 or 11:45 in the morning, and another set phone call at 3:30 in the afternoon to have a conversation with each of your lead people. That's much better than texting them phone calls and emails as these things pop into your head. So leave your people alone for hours at a time. What goes along with this as well is protect your people from admins. Okay, there was I'll tell you a story. Right out of college, I had a job with a utility and earthwork contractor, and there was a superintendent named Gary. And then we had an admin, we'll call her Tracy, and every time Tracy had a question, she would call Gary. She would get on the radio, or this may have been before cell phones. It was probably on the radio. She would get on the radio and call Gary. Gary, this is Tracy. Can you call me? Can you call me back on the radio? And she was interrupting Gary several times throughout the day. And Gary finally said, listen, you need to come out to a job site sometime and see what's actually going on. See, Tracy thought that Gary was there to answer her questions. And the reality was that Tracy was there to support Gary. And Tracy needed to leave Gary the hell alone so Gary could get his work done. So protect your people from admins. Not that admins have malicious intent, but admins work on an admin or a manager schedule. And they need to understand that builders need to work on a builder schedule. So tell your administrative and support staff, hey, leave people alone. Protect them from your office staff. Protect them from, if you're a subcontractor, then protect your workers from general contractors. Route communication through the office so that your builders who are on the job don't feel like they have to answer to the general contractor, that they don't have to answer to the client. Also protect or shield insulate your people from admins, from general contractors, from suppliers, from other subcontractors, and tell them that it's okay not to answer the phone every time it calls, every time the phone rings. It's okay to stay focused on your work. Strategy number 3 is to understand that good builders do not always make good managers. Let me say that again. Good builders do not always make good managers. Similarly, a good manager doesn't have to be a builder. What do I mean by this? There's a common promotion strategy in construction companies whereby someone who's a good equipment operator or a good carpenter or a good concrete finisher gets promoted into a supervisory role. They move from a builder to a manager role. And that's not always the best thing for them. Just because somebody is a good builder doesn't mean that they're going to be a good manager. It's a completely different mindset. It's a completely different skill set. They often make great managers, but just because somebody's a good builder doesn't mean they're going to be a great supervisor. It also doesn't mean that they're interested in it. I've known a lot of guys who have said, I don't want to be the boss. I just want to do my job. I like to build. I don't want to be in charge. I don't want to schedule people. I don't want to deal with that stuff. But too often we force people who are good builders into a role that they're not comfortable with, they're not competent at, and they just don't like it. On the flip side, there's a common misconception that in order to be a good manager, you have to have come up through the trades. You have to have paid your dues. You have to know every little nuance in order to be a manager. And that's just not the case. Managing is a completely different skill set from building. And I can tell you that if you believe that the only people who can help manage your projects are people who have done the work in the past, then that's putting a lid on your organization. You are limiting your organization's growth. You can hire people who have no experience in your business, but they're good project managers. So somebody who was a good project manager for a general contractor will probably be a good good project manager for a specialty subcontractor. It's not so much about the sticks and the bricks that you're putting together on site. It's about the concepts and the principles. I can tell you, I spent most of my career in building construction. I built buildings. And I found myself as general manager of a sewer rehabilitation company, doing utility work where everything was underground. even using some really specialty technology. I knew nothing about the technology, but I did understand how to manage projects, how to manage people, understood how to put systems in place. And even though I had no experience with I've never actually done the repair work with my own hands. The systems I put in place caused that business to grow from $4 million in revenue to $10 million in revenue, eliminated a lot of chaos. So I can tell you that from personal experience, you don't have to be skilled at the trade. You don't have to be a skilled builder in order to be a good manager. All right, strategy number 4 is give your people the permission to not answer the phone. Commonly, there's an expectation or a perception that when the boss calls, you got to answer the phone. Well, that's the boss. I got to stop what I'm doing. When the lead guy gets a phone call from the boss, then the lead guy says, all right, everybody's got to stop. I have to stop. Everybody has to stop. I got to answer this phone call. Tell your people it's okay not to answer the phone. That, again, this goes back to the org chart, the different view on the org chart, where the office and management's job is to support the people in the field. So tell your people they have permission not to answer the phone when it rings, but they can call back at some other time if necessary. So to recap, here are the solutions to solving the problem with the intersection of the builder schedule and the manager schedule. Number 1, flip the org chart. Put your builders at the top of the org chart. Number 2, leave them alone for hours at a time. Batch your communications, eliminate communications, protect your people from admins. Number 3, understand that good builders do not always make good managers, and also understand that good managers do not have to be builders. Number 4, give your people permission not to answer the phone and not respond immediately. So there you go. Let me know what you think. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. Does this make sense to you? If you have any questions about it or comments, go to constructionleadingedge.com/089. I'd love to hear your comments on there. Shoot me an email, todd@constructionleadingedge.com. I am really focused on addressing this skilled workforce issue right now. I'm going to be hammering on that and doing some talks, doing some speaking on that, because I believe this is the number one issue that people are talking about. But I also believe that it's not just about getting more people into the industry. So I'm going to be talking about that quite a bit. So a few reminders. Don't forget about some of the resources that I want to get into your hands. I've got a free video series, The Secrets of Successful Contractors. Secrets of Successful Contractors. You're going to learn about a different way to think about your business. You're going to learn about this hidden cost that could be causing you to bleed cash. You can get your copy of those free videos over at constructionleadingedge.com/owner. Also, if you want some tips on improving crew productivity, then I want to give you my crew productivity booster for free. I also want to give you my project execution formula for free. And the way you can get that is to sign up for a free 10-day trial of the Construction Business Accelerator program. You can do that over at constructionbusinessaccelerator.com. And then don't forget, if you are a business owner and you can see where you want to be, but you just can't seem to get there. Maybe the profitability is not there. Maybe there's too much chaos in your business, or maybe you just want to avoid the learning curve. You know you could probably figure this stuff out in a year or two, but you'd like to take advantage of somebody else's success and mistakes. Then let's get on the phone. I'd like to get on the phone with you for a free strategy call. You can schedule your free strategy call with me at constructionleadingedge.com/call. Or you know what? You can just call me or text me at 859-667-2015. 859-667-2015. As always, I appreciate the ratings and the reviews. If you could leave one of those on the podcast player of your choice, I would appreciate it. It helps get the word out there. And let me know what you think. I appreciate you guys listening. See you next time.